Perfect.
Okay, thank you very much. My presentation will be about the REDACT platform development, and we prepared this presentation myself, Can Zulfikar, Professor Yasin Farshan, and doctoral candidate Seyhan Okuyan. And first of all, I would like to give some information in the worldwide, some available tools, rapid earthquake damage assessment tools in the world. In America, United States, California-based system. In Japan, JMA runs a real-time system. In Taiwan, in Europe, in several countries, and worldwide, the pager has a rapid earthquake damage assessment tool. So this is one of the earliest algorithm developed by USGS. Is the earthquake loss estimation methodology, and the ground motion, ground failure is assessed, and the direct physical damage, indirect physical damage, and based on this information, direct economic and social losses, and also indirect economic losses are assessed. And recently, in the OpenQuake platform, the scenario damage and risk assessment have been achieved. And here, again, the ground motion field calculator is used, and for the damage assessment, the fragility models, and for the risk assessment, vulnerability models are used. So these are the essential elements: the shake mapping, the ground motion field model, and we need the fragility and vulnerability models, and of course we need exposure model. For the building structures, the basic parameters we need is the construction type, material, height, age, and for the economical estimation, we need the values of the buildings. And for the ground motion field, of course, we need the seismic sources, and this is the map prepared in shared project for the European seismic sources and active faults. And also for whole Europe, we have topographic slope-based VS30 map, and this can be also used in the ground motion field for the shake mapping for the soil amplification. And for the station data, I will give an example of the AFAD. Has a station network, more than 1,000 stations nationwide in Turkey, but of course the partner countries have their stations as well. And this is, I'm giving example from AFAD, has a website, interactive website, and all the past earthquake data are available with registration, and the latest earthquakes also interactively available in the AFAD website. So coming to rapid earthquake damage and loss assessment applications, I will give some examples developed earlier. Well, this is the general one from HAZUS, actually. For the earthquake damage and loss estimation, what we need, the input of the earthquake magnitude and the location, and we use the attenuation models to estimate the ground motion distribution at any site. And here, plus in REDACT platform, we will have also the station data, and possibly we will have not only regional station data, but also with the dense low-cost accelerometer data we will have for the distribution of the ground motion field. Then we will need the inventories, as I showed, the fault database for Europe, the soil database, and we will need the building inventory maps and also the population information. And as an output, we will have the ground shaking maps with PGA, PGV, spectral acceleration and intensity, and as the Hazus methodology, the direct building damages and economical losses based on the building damage, and casualties and shelter demands estimates are done. So I give example of the past developed algorithms. The first one I will give as an example, query loss, developed in 2002. It is a probabilistic and deterministic loss estimation software. It is developed under MapInfo. It has intensity-based loss estimation algorithm and also spectral displacement-based loss estimation algorithm. Sorry. And the next algorithm is the ELER, earthquake loss estimation routine, developed in 2010 under a European project, FP6 Nereus project. And here there are three levels of analysis. And first, the shake map, the hazard is done, of course, with the information from the seismotectonic database, observed ground motion values, and VS30 values. And this is same for all levels, the ground shaking maps. Then for the level 0, what we need is only the city location and landscape population distribution. We can estimate the fatalities, casualties, and injuries. And in level 1 analysis, it is an empirical approach. We need the building information data and the population distribution. And we use EMS 98 intensity-based building vulnerability. And we estimate the building damage and damage-related casualty distribution, and also the economical loss. In level 2 analysis, again, we need the building information, the building type, story, number of stories, and the population distribution. And we use the spectral displacement-based approach. We use the fragility curves here, and we estimate the building damage and related casualties, and also based on the building damage, we estimate the economical loss. So, ELER algorithm then applied later to the real-time and a real-time automated earthquake ground motion distribution application were developed. This is still available in Kandilli Observatory after major events. A real-time ground motion distribution map is generated automatically. And another LR algorithm was used for the web-based application, and this is especially developed for the municipalities with the registration. They can use their data in their vicinity for the seismic scenario-based seismic hazard and risk assessment with their own data. And coming to AFAD-RED. AFAD-RED was developed by AFAD in Turkey, a nationwide for the rapid loss estimation after an earthquake. And it works in scenario mode and also in real-time mode. It works automated and also in manual mode. And for after a major earthquake, automatically AFAD-RED generates a report giving information on the ground motion distribution and also damage. And the analysis time, it's very short. It takes around 35-40 seconds. And it is also integrated with the earthquake observation stations. So the ground motion distribution is adjusted with the station information. So here we can see some scenario modes analysis from AFAD-RED, and also the information due to this scenario earthquake, how many buildings will have what level of damage, and the affected people in the region, the casualties and injuries, and necessary number of shelters. So in AFAD-RED, again, we need a database of the building stock, geology, and lifeline database. The analysis parameters are the for the ground motion field, we need the attenuation curves, and for the risk assessment, we need the vulnerability curves. And the maps are generated, the intensity, PGA, PGV, spectral acceleration at short period and 1 second period. And the damage and fatality is shared in grid, town, district, and county bases. So these are the databases used in AFAD-RED. The geological maps, the fault map, VS30 distribution, building stock, lifelines, critical facilities, population, station ID, and detailed geotechnical information. And this is in AFAD-RED window for the ground motion hazard, the attenuation relations available. And these are the fragility curves available in the software. And there are some mobile applications as well. This is developed by AFAD. And after a major event, the user can get information about the earthquake. Another mobile application, this is an interactive application. The user will know about the earthquake that he felt, but also the user can give some data from his side, for example, how he felt the earthquake and what damage were observed. And with this information, for example, this is an earthquake in cross-border area in 2014, Northern Agency earthquake with magnitude 6.9. And here the users replied to the queries, around 250 users in first half an hour. And with the information from the users, the intensity map was developed. And this intensity map from users was quite compatible with the instrumental intensity map retrieved from the stations. So coming to the REDACT software development, what we are doing now, for the shake maps, we have 3 stages. In the first stage, we use the earthquake epicentral parameters and magnitude we need as an information. And then as a second stage, we will use the fault type, fault length, and azimuth information we will use. And we will use the attenuation relationship at the first stage and the VS30 distribution. Then we will have the first ground motion distribution map, but at the third stage, we will have the recorded ground motion data. And this soil-dependent recorded ground motion parameters we will use, and we will update our ground motion distribution maps with this recorded ground motion data. And we will obtain the PGA, PGV, spectral acceleration and intensity maps. So here how we use the station information. So considering we have these phantom stations here, the empty circles, and we have an epicenter, we have an earthquake here, and using the attenuation relations at the first stage, we will estimate the ground motion distribution at each phantom station. And once we have the station data, we will consider this influence function, and we will give the effect of this station data, the real data, to the phantom stations. And we will adjust our ground motion distribution map. And here some examples from AFATRED actually. The intensity distribution map, PGA distribution map, and PGV distribution map. This is an example event in cross-border area. And the moderate results, the distribution adjusted by the station information. So the challenges in the REDACT software development will be the robustness in data transfer, the automatic triggering for online event process, automatic data processing, unified event ID, online integration of strong ground motion data, and integration of the building database. So for the mapping and databases, we will use the building and population database in grid-based information, and we will process the soil data based on the VS30 distribution maps, and some base maps we will use, and we will determine the gridding system. So We will harmonize the vulnerability functions for the region. The most commonly used vulnerability functions, and so at the moment we are working for the harmonization of the vulnerability functions and the harmonization of the attenuation relationships. This is just earlier Nikos presented. We are studying on this the available attenuation relationships for the region, and probably we will give some weightings for the all attenuation relationships available for the region, depending on the fault mechanism. So the processing options will be the online monitoring and run an event and run a scenario. And we will give the information on the faulting, fault type, and source mechanism related parameters. So what we are considering for the system, we will have a REDA center at each partner. So we will have the servers, and there will be one main center and database, and we will have a strong ground motion server, and we will have the data transfer from the strong ground motion server to the REDA system. And of course, we will have the databases, data servers for the building, population, geology, etc. And we will have an event database. Once an event occurs, an event occurred, it will trigger the action, and it will give the information to the REDA system. So so far in the development of the platform, we use the event ID parameters, the network data format, damage and vulnerability curve data format, the GMPs, the geotechnical hazard model, and the casualty model. And here, what the information we need for the event ID parameters, the earthquake information, earthquake-related information, and the station-related data. We will have the network ID, the code, the coordinates of the station, elevation, and VS30 parameter for the station location. And the station network data format, we will have the acceleration velocity, spectral acceleration at certain periods for each component. Well, the same information we have, and we will have the damage vulnerability curve data format. We will have for each damage states, slight damage, medium damage, extensive and complete damage. We will have the spectral displacement and spectral acceleration capacity values depending on the building types, and also the casualty information. So the GMPs will be integrated into software for each tectonic region. So the GMP harmonization task is still ongoing, and the fragility curves will be in a tabular XML format. The preferred fragility curves with 4 damage states for each building class will be defined within the harmonization task. This is also an ongoing study. And the geotechnical hazard model will be integrated in the software, another ongoing study. And the casualty model, we will consider the Spence study from the literature and integrate into software. And this will be not publicly shared, but only for the research purpose will be studied. So this is all I present. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, you can take.